Broadcasting from our studios at Leman Middle School in West Chicago, this is Latinos in Action Podcast.
Latinos in Action Podcast is brought to you by LatinosInAction.org and Leman Values. Everybody in with Leman Values.
Hola, welcome to our second episode of Latinos in Action Podcast. I'm your host, Ruben. Today we have an honor to have our CEO and founder of Latinos in Action. He's a graduate by BYU and originally from El Salvador. Please welcome Dr. Jose Enriquez. Dr. Enriquez, bienvenido a nuestro Latinos in Action Podcast. Our Latinos in Action theme for this year, it is Up to Me. Latinos in Action. Wasn't it up to me moment for you?
It was. I think one of the biggest things that I would say, going back to the original thought of Latinos in Action, was here are young people that are brilliant, that are intelligent, and I wanted them and I wanted the world to see you guys as Latinos in Action. So what did I say to myself? I said, if anybody's going to do this, it's really up to me. It's up to me. And I always say in español, si no yo, ¿quién? Si no nosotros, ¿quién? Right? If we don't do it, who's going to do it? So I really believe this theme is important. I want all young people to say, it's up to me.
What advice can you give us to continue that it's up to me moment that inspired you?
I would say, please don't be afraid to do hard things. Sometimes we see things and we think they're overwhelming, but don't worry, you don't always do it by yourself. Don't be afraid to do hard things.
We are planning to attend the Latinos in Action Conference at the UCF this coming March. We are very excited about it. How is this conference going to be a benefit for us?
Well, first of all, I'm so happy that you're coming because, like was said, we're going to bring Michoacan to Orlando and Leman a representation. But I think one of the biggest things you will take away from is that you guys are a part of a big familia. And when you see this big familia of 1,800 kids coming from various different states, mostly Florida, you're going to be even more excited to be a part of Latinos in Action here in Chicago. And you're going to come back with that much more energy to help other people or other districts bring Latinos in Action to Illinois. And the other thing is that you'll get to hear from some amazing keynote and workshop speakers.
For us, you're a leader. But do you consider yourself a leader?
I do. It took me a bit for a while to think and to actually acknowledge that. But if we don't acknowledge it, then others can't see it. So I'm going to acknowledge that I'm a leader because I want you guys to see me as a Latino being a leader in your community.
These are very difficult days to be an immigrant in the United States. What advice can you give us to make it a change for us for the anti-immigrant feeling in the country?
I love this. What's happening right now is the same thing that happened to me as an immigrant. Mi mamá se vino. She went through some treacherous things for us. Yo les digo a ustedes, again, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. And the other thing is that in order to have people hear your voice, you have to be active. You've got to go vote. You've got to get your parents to vote. You've got to allow for people to see you in action. This is why it's Latinos in Action. Because when they see you serving, when they see you leading, when they see you giving back, when they see you in AP classes, when they see you in honors classes, when they see you graduating from college, when they see you getting your diplomas, when they see you becoming doctors, then the narrative will change because they will have no other thing to say because you've just proved them wrong. And the best way you can prove them wrong is to educate yourselves and get out there with a voice.
One last question. If my parents were right here in front of you, what advice would you give them to make me succeed?
I love that question. If your parents were here, first of all, I would give them a big hug and tell them thank you. And then I would say to always ask you about your homework, even though they don't know sometimes how to do or help you with the homework. I want them to ask you so that you can explain it to them. And I would say to them, if he says or she says that they don't have homework, I want you to tell them, mentiras. There's always homework. There's always something you can do and read, no matter what. Even if you don't have homework, I want them to have you read at least 30 minutes a day. That's what I would tell them.
Dr. Enriquez, thank you so much for being with us today. We are looking forward to see you again in the LIA conference.
Thank you.
That's all we have. I'm your host, Ruben. We see you next time.
Broadcasting from our studios at Leman Middle School in West Chicago, this was Latinos in Action Podcast.
Latinos in Action podcast was brought to you by LatinosInAction.org and Leman Values. Everybody in with Leman Values.